What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm going to be bringing you another Battle of the Blades. Who's going to be facing off today? First, we're going to bring out the Benchmade Bugout. And who are we competing against today? It is going to be the Kaiser Drop Bear. Why? Not because I think these knives look alike in any particular way. Different blade shapes, different geometries, different designs. I mean, I don't really think this rounded handle really matches the handle that comes on the Bugout at all. I mean, it has that finger choil. They both have to have the axis lock and the pivot where they're at. I mean, really, where else are you going to put it? Where else are you going to put a lanyard hole? I mean, the comments that I've heard in regards to this just dumbfound me a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and run through the specs because I really don't think these knives compare all that well outside of the fact that they're both axis locks, but we're going to run through and do the blade battle and pick a winner. First up, the Drop Bear has a 2.97-inch 154 cm blade steel, and my Benchmade Bugout has a 3.2-inch 20 CV blade. Handle length, you have a 4.19-inch steel handle with aluminum scales. On the Bugout, it has a 4.22-inch G10 handle from the factory. Really nicely done G10. Overall length on the Bugout, 7.46 inches, so almost 7.5 inches. And the Drop Bear just over 7, coming at 7.15 inches. So let's go ahead and run through these battles. Now, the reason that I picked the Drop Bear and this particular variation of the Bugout is because the Drop Bear, $110 without a discount, and I did pick up the Bugout with the 20 CV blade steel at $130. So right about $20 difference in price. Not a huge difference, definitely absolutely able to be paid. Country of origin. This is a USA made blade with an outstanding warranty and warranty process. I've had to use the warranty on 2 occasions, and on both occasions the knife was back inside of 2 weeks. It was no fuss, no muss, no hassle. Send the knife in, pay for my own shipping, and got the knife back fixed. This is a Chinese-made knife, and I've had experience with Kaiser's warranty, and it was absolutely horrendous. They wanted to send me the wrong part initially, and they wanted me to pay for the part. Then, when I explained the model that I had and asked them to send an appropriate part, because it did not have a detent, it was a push button lock, and they wanted to send a detent or a detent ball. I'm not really sure what they're referring to, unless they're talking about the lock bar detent. I don't know. My point being is they never wanted the knife to be sent in to look at it. I had nowhere to send it. I had to try to explain my issue, and they had to try to troubleshoot and guess what part to send to me, and they wanted to charge me. So keep that in mind when we go through this process. And yes, every time I review a Kaiser, even one that I like, I'm going to talk about the horrific warranty experience that I had, because people always bark at the fact that you're paying more for a Benchmade or for a Spyderco. Boy, let me tell you, when push comes to shove and you need support for your product when it fails, there's disparity between the two processes. Let's talk about the handle. So you have a 4.22-inch G10 handle, so you get more handle length than you do on the Drop Bear, which is coming in at 4.19 inches. It is a marginal difference, and in all honesty, they both have really good ergos. They feel nice in hand. The Drop Bear is substantially more chunky and has just a different approach. It feels like a lot of other, when you talk about the CMB Predator, when you talk about some of the Sativians that I've encountered that have an access lock, has that very similar chunky feel to it. Whereas the Bugout, especially with the G10 handles on there, just feels more slender. It does have a nice tall handle to it, so it does feel comfortable in hand, but much more slender. So from an EDC perspective, it's going to be nicer in that regard. It's going to take up less space. Talking about less space in pocket, let's talk about the weight. The Drop Bear coming in at 3.6 ounces, so over 3.5 ounces on that Drop Bear, whereas the factory scale Bugout is 2.17 ounces. Not even close. The Bugout feels lighter, it is lighter, and it carries lighter. So that is definitely going to go, in my opinion, to the Bugout. I think it is just a great EDC. It has a good profile. It's comfortable enough in hand, even from my large hands, to where I really enjoy it. Let's go ahead and move along to the action. The drop bear riding on ceramic bearings, and in this instance, it does have the phosphor bronze washers down in there to cage those ceramic bearings, and the action is phenomenal. Really smooth. Definitely feels really good. Having said that, the bug out has broken in. It is on phosphor bronze washers, which is a little bit more conducive for hard use, meaning it's not as susceptible to debris and dirt to gum up and mess up the action or impact the action. And it is drop shut and extremely smooth considering the fact that it's on phosphor bronze washers. So both have excellent action. I would give that a tie. Far as how the springs feel, the factory springs were extremely light on the bug out. I put the aftermarket springs on there to firm it up a little bit, but they feel really good with the aftermarket springs. They feel okay with the factory springs. The nice thing about the drop bear is that I can actually make these more firm because they have adjustable holes for the springs. So really, really nice because you can adjust it to light or heavy, and the heavier one doesn't keep it from flinging out. You can still fling it out, but it does make it a little bit harder to do. So I actually have it in the hardest setting or the heaviest setting because I actually like that a lot. Now let's talk about the finishes. First, we're going to go ahead and talk about the stonewash on these two knives. I would actually say, I apologize. Satin finish, stonewash finish. I prefer the stonewash finish. I think it looks a little bit nicer. Very well done. Nice finishing attribute. But that's not to say that if you like the satin finish on this blade that it's not good. It does show the belt grinds on it, which I think is kind of nice. But I just prefer the stonewash finish on the bug out a little bit better. The G10 scales are G10 scales. There's nothing fancy about this knife and its factory form. I will say that the aluminum scales are a little bit nicer, but I kind of wish that instead of going with full steel liners, they would have just done aluminum scales and they would have done the steel insert for the access lock, or I forget what they call it, but their crossbar lock system and where the pivot is. I think it would have been a little bit nicer, and then you could have just had the standoffs hitting up against the aluminum scales. Would have shaved some weight, would have thinned it up a little bit, which I think would be okay, but it's a minor issue for me because otherwise I think this is really well done. Pocket clips on both these knives are outstanding. A little bit nicer on the bug out because it is shorter, so it does not intrude into the ergos as much as it does on the drop bear, but the drop bear is so low profile, it's not a huge issue. Just a little bit of an advantage because you do have the shorty on the bug out, which is one of my favorite pocket clips because it gets it out of the way, but it still keeps it extremely deep carry. Let's talk about deployment. Deployment, you have thumb studs on both these knives. I'm going to keep this very simple. The bug out and Benchmade in general has some of the best thumb studs in the game. The thumb studs are not bad on the drop bear, but they're smaller overall and they don't have as much ribbing at the top to catch onto. Occasionally I have missed that. Minor complaint, I know. And I swear I wasn't trying to do that, but right there, it just demonstrates what I'm talking about. I don't think I've ever missed on the bug out, and on occasion, I have missed on the drop bear. That one was my fault. My thumb was actually against the blade instead of on the scale. With no pocket clip on that side, I have to kind of use the scale to hold it in place while I flip it. That was my fault on that one deployment. Lanyard holes, they're fine. They don't look anything alike. They're very different, completely different in my opinion. You have it curved here where I think Kaiser doesn't really have a place to put this. I think honestly, if they would have just gone with a lanyard barrel, this would actually be better looking in my opinion. The reversible pocket clip on here is nice, but again, it does have these vacant holes here, which could potentially take away from the aesthetics. I think it's much cleaner when you don't have the reversible pocket clip on here, but it is reversible with the factory scale, so you do have the holes on both. So lanyard hole and pocket clip positions for these are going to be a tie. Both work fairly well. I just don't like the look aesthetically for the lanyard hole. I prefer the lanyard barrel. Now, the one thing I didn't talk about, let's go ahead and talk about the access to the lock bar pin right here. Very nice on both of these. A little bit smaller, which makes sense. A little bit smaller studs, a little bit smaller access here on a little bit smaller knife. But both are very nice, and I have not missed actuating either one. And you can even do the little wrist flick with both these knives very easily, and they work really, really, really well. In the end, who am I going to pick as my winner? The knives themselves are very well done. They have a great price. You can get these on sale. Any holiday, you can get the Blade HQ exclusive Bugout with the 20 CV on sale. And I do like the 20 CV for its edge retention a little bit better than 154 CM. The 154 CM is going to be a little bit easier to maintain, and it's going to still hold a good edge. Both have really nice finishes. I do like the Stonewash a little bit better. I like the Ergos a little bit better because I have larger hands on the Bugout. But if you have a medium to large hand, you probably are not going to really tell between the two. And the chunkier nature on the Kizer drop bear is a little bit nicer. It fills the hand a little bit more side to side, but both have nice height to them, and you do have more hand position again for the larger hands on the Bugout. Action on both of these are superb. Broken in, the Bugout feels like it's on bearings. Every once in a while, when it's been sitting for a little while, you will get a little bit of stick on that lock bar. But after the first deployment, that's completely gone. And again, as you work it in or as you break it in, it will go away. Or you can go ahead and get yourself a set of titanium. Well, it's not a set. You can get yourself a titanium crossbar lock from Flytanium, which is really, really nice. Flytanium does a good job with their products. And I noticed here on their Demco scales, they're starting to look at manufacturing in the US, which is really awesome. Want to see more of that. But in the end, in this battle, I'm picking the Bugout. The main factors are a little bit more friendly for the larger hand, a little bit more slender, a little bit more lightweight. I like the steel on this one a little bit better, and I love Benchmade's warranty. It is no fuss, no muss. You're getting your knife taken care of. You tell them what the issue is, and they're going to make it right. Kizer's warranty is horrendous. They need to work on fixing that because I do like some of their products. I've only encountered one of their button locks that I really like. Their button locks are sticky, tacky, and they mostly ride on steel liners, which does feel pretty cheap. I don't really like that too much on how that feels with the bearings, and I really hate that they still use plastic washers with the ceramic bearings because I did have that fail. That is not my favorite because the plastic is going to be more susceptible to damage when something happens, whereas the caged phosphoron washer with the ceramic bearings in them are going to be a little bit more durable and a little less susceptible to damages. So in the end, for me, I'm picking the Bugout. I think the longer I've owned this knife and the more it has broken in and just the more time I've spent with using it, I really just appreciate Benchmade's knife a lot. I think they've come a long way. Having said that, that does not mean that I think the drop bear is a bad knife. This is a really good example. It's a really nice EDC size knife. I love a lot of the things about this, and it works really well. I think if Kizer can shape up their warranty process in supporting their products to emulate what you get from Sencut Civivi or QSP, again, they're not as good as your domestic warranties when you're in the US dealing with SIG, dealing with Benchmade, dealing with Chris Reeve. It's Spyderco. It's going to be faster, but even when I sent it to QSP and when I sent it to Civivi, 4 to 6 weeks I had it back and it was fixed, and I was able to send it to them to make the determination of what was wrong to fix it. With this whole guesswork thing and them wanting to send you the parts to fix it yourself, that's just really horrible in my opinion, and I want to see them fix that because they do have. I love the drop bear. The Begleiter button lock, Begleiter 2 button lock, was the best button lock that I encountered from them. The originals, the Hiccup and the Assassin, were not good at all, and I would probably say I would steer away from them. CJRB even is doing a better job on their button locks, and they're doing it at a banging price too. So I really I'm left feeling underwhelmed when it comes to their button locks. But when you look at, again, the Assassin, the Sheepdog, and the Begleiter in general, great builds, great knives, and there's a lot of potential there, and I'd like to see them continue to grow. They just need to fix that warranty. In the end, who would you have picked? Because there is clearly some styling differences here, right? You have very different approach for blade shapes. This is almost clip point-esque, even though it is a drop point, because the swedge makes it look clippy. And this is a very almost spear point drop point. It's a little bit lower, so it is a drop point, but it looks very spear point. And then I just think the handles are very different. I think because of the shortness, this looks stubby to me. And it's just a flat scale with contouring around the edge, whereas even the Benchmade Bugout with the G10 scales on it have some contouring on it. So to me, they don't look alike. I know I've heard the comment, even the position of where the access bar, cross-lock bar is to the pivot, where else are you supposed to put that? Can't put it underneath. You put it back, it's going to affect the action. You know, it's going to make it feel more sluggish. And then, oh, even, you know, it's got the same, no, I mean, really, there's so many knives that have lanyard holes drilled out on the back here. Some of them are slotted, some of them are perfectly round. I mean, I really think there's just limited places that you can put those on the knives. But hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, do me a favor, leave a like. If you're enjoying the content, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you follow along. And don't forget, leave it in the comments. Let me know who you would have picked for this. And I hope that when you say you would pick one or the other, that you actually have experience handling both these knives. Don't just have one and say you would pick it over the other because it's cheaper. Like, that's not a true comparison. Comparing the two knives, understanding that there is a little bit of difference in price point. This is an expensive Kaiser, and this is a very cheap Benchmade that you can pick up on sale regularly from Benchmade. You just got to wait for a holiday to roll through or for them to do some type of sale. They always are putting their exclusives on sale when they hang around. Handling both these has got to be imperative for you to tell me which one you like better or worse, and tell me why too, because I think some people are going to say the action, because the bearing does feel just a tiny bit smoother than the broken in washers, but the Benchmade is really, really smooth. It has that glassiness to it. Hope all of you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.